So how do you dye fabric shoes with more than one color of dye? In this video, I'm going to show you my best tips and tools to do it just like a professional. Coming up. Aloha guys, Teri Edmonds coming to you from my shoe store, If the Shoe Fits, in Maui, Hawaii. I am a cobbler and I specialize in custom shoes and shoe repair. On my YouTube channel, you're going to find shoe reviews and tutorials just like this one. If you enjoy things like that and you maybe are an aspiring shoe artist, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. YouTuber Sarita wrote in and asked a question. Can you show us how to actually apply the dye, how not to get it all over, and how to dry it? I thought that's really a great question. I do have a video that I recommend watching, which is the Dyeing Shoes Tiffany Blue. I also have another one, Dyeing Shoes Plum. They're all fun for the more complicated colors. But for this one, I thought I would answer this question because this is a very complicated makeover I'm doing. And if you follow my show, I think you might enjoy this because it has so many layers. Some of the tools that you're going to need are, and I have a link down below, I love these artist brushes. I use them for everything. And if you're building your collection at home, I love these. You can buy them for $6. I have the link right here on the video. And I use them for the ink on shoes. I use it for the leather dye. I do like to, because they're so affordable, I actually put a set of these just for acrylic, but it also works for the others. So I have a set in each place. I have a cute little, shoe cup. Anyway, so that's great. And so you're also going to need shoe dye. This you actually, it's kind of tricky to find this, but I will put a link for you. If you ever need something like a specialty product like this, you can always reach me at teriedmonds.com and send me an email and I'll make sure to have that drop shipped right to your home. The other thing is a shot glass. Now this one's special, and again I'll have a link, but this actually has the measuring lines because shoe dyes have formulas. If you get fancy with colors, they come with a whole recipe, so you'll need that. And then I also have a dry towel and a wet towel. Well, it's gonna be wet. Here, I'm gonna wet it right now. Anyway, this is really, you really need to have a wet towel on hand because if you happen to get run over on the shoe, you'll be needing your wet towel. Then you also need a fabulous pair of satin shoes. These happen to be from Dyeables, the company that I love to represent. They're fantastic. And this is gonna be a complete makeover. So you have your tools that you're gonna need. We're also gonna rhinestone. Once I'm gonna apply one color of ivory. I'm gonna do the trim in black. And then I'm going to put on some Swarovski Hot Fix crystals. They come in these little bags. This is a nice little, I think 100 units, and this is black. And so I will be using my own artistic opinion on where I'm gonna place them. But with that, you also need to have the special Hot Fix tools. And I also put a link to these as well. I like to have two on hand so that when one is heating up, I can use the other one and I switch them out. I happen to also put them on a clear plate, or it doesn't have to be a clear plate, but a plate. So I let the tools rest on there. You'll see that in the demonstration. And I will have links to, I will do shortcuts in this video. If you'd like to just see the dyeing process, I'll put a link there. If you want to see just the rhinestoning process, I'll put a link there as well, and I'll label them appropriately so you can watch them. So if you want to skip to those, feel free. I have also been requested by YouTubers to show the process more, and I don't blame you. If you really are aspiring to be an artist, let me help you with those extra details. Everybody does it differently, and so I have my own way of doing it, and I will show you that way. Also, while I remember, I like to use latex gloves. I won't need them for the ivory, of course, but every other color, they will stain your hands. So there we have it. That is super exciting. I can't wait. This client did another shoe with me, and I'm gonna have a link to that video here. And she loves to do her own shoes, so she buys the outfit. I'll show you the outfit for today. is actually this. So this makes sense as to, gonna dye the shoe ivory, black trim, and then black Swarovski crystals randomly placed throughout the side of the shoe here, right? That's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait to do the before. Here's the before, and then we'll do the after. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I've selected my paintbrush, which is gonna be perfect for this. And it's a light color. I could go ahead and take my wool dauber. Wool dauber. These are great. This covers a lot more area here. And so I probably will do that just to kind of speed this up. Dyeables, this shoe is a lovely, lovely shoe. This is called the Tessa, and it is dyeable. It is satin, so satin is pretty consistent when you dye it. I'm going to go ahead and use my wool dauber, and I am going to go ahead here and just... And the thing is that I'm kind of angling the shoe this way, and I talk about that in my videos, that I like to angle the shoe away from the sole, okay? If this were a red color and it bled onto the bottom of the sole and ran over, it is really hard to get it off, even if you wipe it off right away. So I'm just doing all of this. And this color is an easy color, wipes up right away. And I like to go kind of quickly because otherwise you can get dry pattern. It's a dry pattern, and it can cause a little, like almost a seam, but if you do it when it's all wet, it'll all bleed together, and it won't show a little line. But I like to keep going and do it kind of expediently. So there we go. It's very, this color is so easy. Look at that. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, so I can go quickly. And I think that if I were a novice, I would definitely take my time. But this is such an easy color. It's drying, it's going on kind of like it's dark looking, and it will actually lighten up and dry a little bit lighter. So once I'm done with this, one of the other questions from my YouTuber was how to dry it. Well, you just don't set them next to each other. You want to just let them dry naturally in the air. Don't put them in the sun. I'm going to let these dry for quite a while because I'm going to put on another color. And if you have ever watercolored, those of you who have, you know that when you put wet watercolor, one color next to another, it just bleeds and blends together. So I need to get a black trim on this ultimately, and I need it to not bleed. So I'm going to be sure, there we go, and I'm going to go inside this toe area here. Here we are, and here we go. If you're not comfortable with this large dauber, you could go ahead and use your wonderful brush here. And this is that X-Passion brush I was telling you guys about. I really like them. Hold that color, there we go, it gets right underneath there. So I'm going to check this shoe. I've got a little spot back here to finish up. Always check and make sure you got it all. There we go. And my overhead camera broke, guys, so I can't give you the overhead shot, but you get the idea, right? We're all done. So I'm going to let this shoe dry. Look, that was super fast. I won't go that fast when I do the next color, but for now I need to go ahead and let that dry. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this next sandal, let it dry, and then I'll come back to you with the black. Okay, so this is really important. I just finished dyeing the main color, and like I said, it's going to be a while, so I'm going to let them set here like that. They're not touching each other, right? Maybe put them under a fan, whatever, it'll be quicker for sure. But the key to drying is don't let them touch. If you do, it will leave a watermark. Okay, and then your whole dye job is out the window. So, there we go. See you back with black. Now I'm going to apply the rhinestones. This shoe is not quite dry yet, but it doesn't matter. I want to give it more time to dry before I apply the black trim. And so now I'll just be applying the Swarovski crystal. So I have taken the Swarovskis and put them on the plate like this. They're just kind of spread around in there. And I place this Hot Fix applicator, which has this hole in the top of it like that. And I have picked up a rhinestone, and this is what the rhinestone back looks like. Right now they're using this copper color on the bottom, so you can really designate it from the non-hot fix. And what the hot fix means is that there's glue on this copper surface. And once it's inside this hot chamber, it heats up the rhinestone and heats up the glue. So I go ahead and take this, and just like I did these two, I'm going to place them here in a pattern. And I'm going to go right here. I'm just placing it on the shoe here, like this. And I like to go ahead and press it down just to make sure it sticks, like that. And I'm going to do this all over the shoe in a pattern. And I'm going to go ahead, we are making the shoe, as I mentioned earlier, to match this. So isn't that pretty? So this will be the ivory shoe with the rhinestones all over it. So it's going to take me a little while to do that, and I'll show you as soon as I'm done, and then we'll continue on to putting on the black dye. We're now on this last step of trimming the shoe. See how this is plain beige, and we're going to make it with a black trim. I've put all the rhinestones on, and I'm not going crazy with the rhinestones because we don't want this to be so matchy-matchy with the dress, right? Just kind of keep it subtle and tasteful. And so this black trim, now this is very tricky. I am not gonna lie. I would call this a very advanced project, and it's going to take a while, so I'll probably speed up a lot of this. And because I don't have my overhead camera, I can't show you the super great detail, but there are certain things I want to point out. When I use the second color, I did almost the entire shoe upside down because of gravity, and with this fabric it bleeds, and you kind of have to use the bleeding effect when you're applying it. And since I didn't want this black to bleed onto the other part of the shoe, I had to use a couple of different processes. The first one I did was, and let's just go over it, I'll show you guys. So the very first thing I'm doing is going around this edge where it's touching the gold. I'm going to take a Q-tip, dipped it in my dye here. It's hard to see the dye, but this is my little dauber. I'll put it next to that shoe. And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm just going to barely, it's got a lot of dye, so I'm going to get a little bit of the dye off here. Okay, sorry, it's not closer. And then I'm just going to very lightly, very, very, very lightly touch it. Like this. And I am just barely going around. And I really don't want this dye to bleed, so I have to just take my time and be very, very careful. So I'm going to do this all the way around the shoe and anywhere that it's touching this ivory. So again, I'm going to get the major dye off. See how quickly? Let's see if I can do this for you. You know what? I'm going to try to get a closer shot for you. Okay, so here we are. Again, I'm going to tip this shoe upside down so gravity wants to pull it down and not up towards the shoe. And I am just very, ever so carefully doing this. You see that? There we go. Now, doesn't look like much, right? It's not finished yet. So then I'm going to take that dauber that I suggested that you get, just barely tap it into, just put a little bit. I tapped it in there, and then I'm going to let a little bit of it just kind of get the excess off. Now, again, upside down, I'm going to touch this side, the lower side of the shoe, because that's not touching, but I don't want to do too much. If you overdo it and soak it, it's going to bleed enough that it will bleed this way no matter what. The dye's got to go somewhere. So there we go, like that. Now there's still pieces missing. Like, do you see how that thread is showing? So what I do is I'm going to go back with my brush that I recommended you get. There's my brush. And take off the excess. And I'm going to go ahead and go over the threads just without letting the bristles touch the rest of the shoe. This is definitely a job of patience. You really need to take your time, and for the people that are struggling with it going everywhere, all I can say is practice, practice, practice. Typically, a fine shoe like this will come with a swatch, and you can practice on that swatch, and I'd recommend that. I've been doing this for a long time. I have dyed so many pairs of shoes, and this was really challenging for me. So again, I'm kind of impatient, but I had to get the right tools, kind of figure out what works best. And I'm going to go ahead now and just continue on. I'm going to do my Q-tip, right? So I did the Q-tip first. And I would actually go around the whole shoe and just do the Q-tip parts first. But I want you to be able to do this rest of this on your own. So there. And then I'm going to go ahead. See, I'm okay using the dauber here because there's nothing inside there, right? Even this, look at that. I can just totally cover that. I'm going to be more careful as I come in closer. There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and use my brush again. And come in here over those threads. Just enough dye, because if you don't really darken that thread a little, it'll show and it'll end up looking faded. And this brush carries hardly any dye, so I didn't want to use that in lieu of the Q-tip because it just wasn't putting on enough color. But it's safe enough for me to go ahead and really get those threads and not have it bleed through. Okay. So there, I think that's enough to kind of lead you. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I'll show you the final project. All right, we finished. Woohoo! Awesome. Here's the top. Oh, it's actually the full dress. And then here are our lovely shoes. I did just finish dyeing the black, so I'm going to let them just gently sit there because should this strap, this black strap, touch the ivory, it will stain it. We've come this far. Don't ruin it, Teri. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Remember that there are so many different videos to show you how I dye shoes, and they have a lot of close-up shots. If you weren't able to really get in on that detail today, click this link here and it'll send you directly to those videos. I did use all those tools that I recommended. And again, if you're doing your art collection, a shoe collection, those are great tools. There are more DIY supplies that I recommend as far as glues and other things like that. I have so much fun doing this. Thank you for joining me and thank you for subscribing. It's awesome. Anyway, thanks again so much. And from Maui, Hawaii, aloha.